For most New Yorkers, getting into a rent-stabilized apartment is a dream. But for the landlords and investors who own rent-stabilized buildings, the last couple of years have been a nightmare. In the latest issue of The Real Deal, senior reporter Susanna Kavanaugh talked to the folks over at PH Realty, which has snapped up more than 3,000 rent-stabilized units in the last year or so. But they've only been able to do that because the value of these buildings has cratered, even during a housing crisis. Why? Because for most owners of fully rent-stabilized buildings, the math no longer pencils out. See, in 2019, rent laws were passed that prevented the owners of these buildings from destabilizing units or significantly increasing rent over time, even if they made significant capital improvements to the building or the units. Susanna toured one unit that was covered in black mold with cracked tiles and rust everywhere, completely unlivable. And the landlord has just locked the door. Because even if they poured in the tens of thousands of dollars it would take to renovate the unit, they'd only be able to increase the rent by $224 per month, not enough to cover the improvements. If you think landlords are reaping millions of dollars from these rent-stabilized buildings every year, you might not have a lot of sympathy for these guys. But in a lot of cases, things like expenses and increasing insurance costs have eaten those margins way down, and the rents haven't come up to make up the difference. In fact, the average fully rent-stabilized building in the Bronx has been running a deficit, meaning the expenses are more than the income, since 2020. In May, the Citizens Budget Commission warned that there could be a maintenance death spiral if the city doesn't step in. Now, there are some folks, like PH Realty, who still think they can make the numbers work, especially in the buildings of their choosing. And because these buildings are so devalued right now, they've been able to snap them up at discounts, make simple, livable repairs, and re-rent the units. And it's still New York, and people still need housing. So their vacancies are very low. But it's a risky move, and the margins can be really tight. You might be making a profit at first, but as costs rise, that profit shrinks. And a lot of people in the industry are sounding the alarm about what might happen as more of these buildings spiral into default. A lot of owners have lost properties to foreclosure already. If the city can't find a way to improve the situation, whether it's through subsidy or tax benefits or a cap on insurance costs, there are lots of ideas out there, the situation could get a lot worse. Read the whole story on therealdeal.com now and in our latest magazine.